That's it, we're live. Right, so hello everybody and thank you for joining us. Today I'm with Christy Scotch, who is a dressage rider. And we've spoken a bit on Facebook, haven't we? But obviously we've never met because Christy's in America. So if I can just ask you to introduce yourself to start with and tell us a bit about yourself and your journey so far with horses.
Okay. I'm Christy Scotch, and I actually have been riding. I started riding as a kid since I was probably about 5 years old, and rode up through high school. When I graduated from high school, my parents sold my horse, and I went off to college, and that was going to be it with horses. And I did pony club, and I did some Western pleasure, and I did all different kinds of stuff. And I actually ended up training horses when I was in high school as well. Kind of fell in my lap. People were asking me, "Hey, can you help me out with my horse?" And never thought that that would actually be a career option for me. But anyway, fast forward, my husband and I, we got married in '98, and we thought we were going to have the American dream, have a bunch of kids, and I would be taking my kids to ride horses, and that did not pan out. And so we ended up getting a horse in 2005, and I wanted to get a warm blood. This is my first shot with warm bloods. I thought, I can ride quarter horses. I can ride a warm blood, sure. And the whole point was to be just, we're going to train her and get her going somewhere and then sell her as an investment. And so I got a horse I was not attached to. I did not really see as my personal horse. And I fell in love with her. She was awesome. And I had no idea what I was going to do with her. I took her to an eventing clinic, and everybody there was like, "That's a dressage horse." And I was like, "How do y'all know?" I don't know. I didn't know that. So I thought, well, maybe I'll do dressage with her. So I started taking lessons, and I watched a lot of stuff on TV, and I learned from mostly, I really fell in love with Conrad Schumacher's teaching. He just made things so understandable and had really good exercises to help with different problems and stuff. And I ended up going to one of his clinics, and I saved every penny I had. I didn't have much money to pay for a clinic, and I was selling stuff on eBay, and my husband joked and said, "I'm going to come home one day and the TV is going to be gone because you're going to sell it on eBay." I was like, I hadn't thought about that, but good idea. I did not sell it on eBay, but I did sell a lot of other stuff, and I was able to go ride with him, and it was the honor of a lifetime. And I was just a training level person at that time, and he really helped me understand the principles of dressage. And I told him I was a cowgirl. He was kind of like going, "I don't know what I should do with this girl because she doesn't know anything." And fast forward, I was able to continue to ride with him, kept saving money, did mystery shopping, did all different kinds of other things to keep riding with him, borrowed a trailer, borrowed a truck. I had nothing. And ended up, in 2007, I got my bronze medal. In 2009, I got my silver medal. And then in 2010 or 11, I got my gold medal, all with Daria, with Contessa, sorry. My first horse. And yeah, we went all the way up to Grand Prix, and I don't know how we did it, honestly, and I don't recommend it because it's really not something that you should be able to do, train your horse to Grand Prix yourself without having a trainer there monitoring you all the time and actually having the trainer train you. And Conrad even said, you're in a very difficult position because usually you have a green horse and an experienced rider, or an experienced horse and a green rider, and you both don't know anything. So your chances are not very good. So anyway, I don't know how it happened, but we did. And I had a great time with her. She was a lovely horse, very forgiving. And I think it was about 2012, I finally told my husband I was ready to sell her, although I wasn't, but I knew I had to at least give him finally the option of getting some money back out of what we put into her. So
you could buy some stuff back off eBay. So you could buy some stuff back off eBay.
I know, exactly. No, so I can buy another horse.
Oh. They're long suffering, these husbands, aren't they?
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, we got her for 10,000, and we were able to sell her for way over six figures with the help of some friends. And she went to a great lady in California who wanted to get her gold medal, and she has a great life. I had her baby that I kind of started bringing along and brought her up to Pre-St. George, and then I found my current horse, Daria, just looking on the internet, and saw her, was like, wow, that horse is everything that I would have dreamed for in a horse. And I sent the link to my husband, and normally he has to think about something for 5 years before we actually decide on it. It took us 5 years to buy a TV. And he saw her and also kind of agreed this is a pretty unique horse. So I inquired about her. She was in the right price. She was everything we wanted. And I was like, okay, well, we're interested. And he said, oh, by the way, she's in Germany. And I was like, that just put her outside the price range. I was thinking buy American. So anyway, the guy said, let me talk to the breeders and let you know. And they agreed to be responsible to get her to the United States if I would take over getting her from New York through quarantine and then getting her to myself. So we ended up being able to get her. I bought her sight unseen, just with videos and video vetting. I wouldn't recommend it, but at this point, I mean, I had ridden enough horses and was training professionally, so it wasn't a big deal. If she didn't turn out to be what I wanted, I knew I could at least get our money back out of her. So anyway, I had her since I got her in 2014, and I've started training her in dressage and really wanted Liberty stuff too. And that's where I had met Dan James at a clinic in Alabama. I was doing a dressage demonstration with another horse, the middle horse that I had at Pre-St. George, and met him, and I was like, wow, his principles are very similar to dressage. He talked about, leg yields and shoulder in, non-bear, tri-bear, and I was like, that's very classical sounding. It's really interesting. So I was automatically intrigued by him, and I watched his presentation stuff. And anyway, we developed a friendship, and I ended up seeing him again the following year when he came back, and I came back to the demonstration with my new horse, and was like, I really want to get into Liberty. So, and my thing was, I want to teach my horse to lay down. That was the main thing. I was like, I want to teach my horse to lay down. And everybody in dressage is like, what? I mean, you're crazy. You've got a dressage horse. What are you doing Liberty? And what are you doing asking her to lay down? But anyway, I had Dan come to a clinic in Alabama, organized it, and had huge number of participants and a huge number of auditors. And my horse turned up with an eye problem in her left eye about a month before, and I had to take her. We started dealing with it and realized it was a really aggressive eye disease she had, that we had to take her to Auburn, and she actually had surgery the weekend that Dan was there. So much for getting her taught on the lay down and starting with Liberty. And she went from there. She lost her sight in her left eye, and I continued to progress with her with dressage. We had a trust and a friendship that we developed, and she trusted me, and we just kind of kept moving up the levels. So I did that. And last year during the pandemic, when Dan was kind of more at home than he had planned on being, I noticed he was doing a Liberty clinic, and I contacted him and was like, hey, can I make up for not being able to do the Liberty clinic in Birmingham when you came? And he said, sure. So I drove up to Kentucky, and that's when we started in Liberty. It was literally end of June 2020, and she took to it immediately. I took to it immediately. I fell in love with it. I was like, this is awesome harmony with my horse, having fun with her, and she gets to choose whether she's with me or not. And that's it's a huge deal when you have a 1,200-pound animal that's actually has every ability to run away, and she had every propensity to. She's a hot tamale, a great dressage horse, great Grand Prix horse, and also makes her very fired up for Liberty. But yeah, so we were doing it, and we ended up doing the championship show in October. We did some online showing, and that's kind of a long answer to your question. So I'm sorry for rambling, but it is early, and I'm kind of going, okay, yeah, my brain's a little bit going all over the place.
So did you only really start then at that clinic, or had you been doing some at home yourself before the clinic?
You know, I had watched him teach people on the lay down. So, cause I was like, I want to know so I can work on it. Cause I was a watch stuff on TV, read magazines, do what I can, and learn it on my own, cause I couldn't afford lessons as a kid. And then again, older, I got more so that I could actually pay for riding with trainers, but you know, it's always difficult. So he showed me what the starting steps were, getting them to put their head down and getting them to bring their hind legs up underneath them. So I started a little bit of that, but that was all I could do. I was like, I've got a horse that's blind in her left eye. So everything that he's talked about doing with these horses, I didn't know how to fit that in to her and my relationship with her and helping her understand how to do Liberty when she can't see me 50% of the time.
Yeah, so, I watched you freestyle at the championships, and how did you adapt, like your cues and things, with her being blind?
It's difficult because I don't get any kind of a special consideration. So if I put my hand up so that she can see shadows, and she can see. If I put my hand towards her eye, she can kind of see something coming at her. So if I put my hand up or something, she kind of understands where I am. But other than that, she really doesn't. So when she's got to travel on my right shoulder and she can't see me, a lot of times I get run into. And I mean, that happened at the when I was shooting our freestyle. That actually, the video we had done, I had injured my knee the first day that I'd gotten there, and was not able to practice anything. I thought I wasn't going to be able to do the championship. Dan did some work with her, and I did some serious treatment on my knee. And the freestyle that we actually put online, I did to no music. Dan just was kind of listening to something. I brought something to listen to music, and he was like, just keep going. And it was at the end of working her, she was done. And I was done. My knee was hurt, and I was like, she can't hear me. She kept running into me and was going, it's a bit discombobulated, but I guess, you know, if you don't know what to expect, you can't tell. But yeah, I talked to her a lot. And anyway, our freestyle was thrown together. That our first take was what we went with. I had no idea what it was going to look like. And at one point I thought we were done. Then he goes, wait, keep going. So, okay, I got to go back and run back and do some more stuff. And Daria's going like, what are you doing? So, anyway.
Still very impressive after basically just a few months' work and a poorly knee and a blind horse in one eye.
Yeah, it definitely, and she always adds her flair to it, which, you know, sometimes the judges don't necessarily appreciate in the competition, but I love it. I love her attitude, and I love her signature that she adds to the Liberty that's just uniquely hers, but we don't get extra points for it.
So going back a minute to the start of the story, how do you think you defied the odds then, sort of training your first dressage horse to Grand Prix on your own?
Honestly, I'd always grown up watching other people learn and going back and practicing on my own horse. So that's just what I had to do growing up. My parents didn't have a lot of money. I come from a family of 6 kids, and we were in private schools for a good bit of that time. And so, you know, horses were a secondary thought. But so when I got back into horses and I really wanted to do dressage, I read a book, and there was a book that said, okay, after 60 days, you should be ready to go train or show at a training level class. So I was like, okay, well, it's time to find a show. So my husband and I borrowed a trailer and a truck, and we looked up and found a show that we were supposed to go to that was close by, and I entered the show, and we went, and by ourselves, no trainer. I didn't even know what a good score was. We went to the show, and, you know, actually won our first class, and at that point I got my farrier to help me a little bit. He had also rode, and he had given me some pointers, so I called him. I was like, "Is this a good score?" And he was like, "Yeah, it's a really good score." And we showed the entire weekend. We won all of our classes at training level, and we were stabled next to a group that we didn't know, but they were also from Alabama too. So they thought that we were with us when they did the stabling chart. And my husband can talk to a rock, so he started talking to everybody, and we were close friends with them before the show was over. And they were telling me, a Sunday when it was done, okay, time to move up to first level. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, this is my first show at training level. I have no idea. But I did show some more training level, but I started moving up to first level. We walked away from that show with high score at training level, high score adult amateur, high score period. They sent us a bunch of stuff in the mail, so I was definitely stoked, and I definitely wanted to keep going. And it was then at first level when I met up with Conrad and watched a lot of his videos, and he would also let me fax him. He's not into much technology. He would let me fax him, and he would fax back answers to my questions and stuff. And at one point, I even mailed a video to him. I think it took $50 to get it to him, and I was going, okay, I can't afford a lesson. I'm paying $50 to get a video to somebody. But it was a lot of trial and error, and really I had no idea what I couldn't do. Conrad said it's a very difficult thing, you're in a difficult position, but nobody had told me that you have to have a trainer, and even the top riders have trainers. I just was like, I want to keep going, and so we just kind of did. And I did have some other trainers that were around in Birmingham. There was one particular trainer who did some help with me for a while and got me over some humps when I felt like we were at third level and really couldn't get beyond that. And then we were at Pre-St. George, and I couldn't really get beyond that. And so, we were able to get some help locally along the way too.
I think probably it encourages problem solving a little bit more and encourages you to think and develop feel a bit more on your own. I know from my own experience, when I've been on professional yards and riding under supervision all the time, you almost stop thinking. And then when you are on your own, you think, what am I supposed to be doing now? And you stop to dare to experiment.
Yeah, actually, that is very true, because when I did get local help, I was telling Darren, my husband, I was like, I can't get over this hump. And so we would take her I took her to a trainer to say, we want her in half training because we can't afford full training. We'll do half training for a month, and I'll come over and I'll get lessons and stuff, and then I'll work her on the other days. And yeah, it gave me a lot to think about, a lot to work on. And then I'm trying to think on my own, okay, now what do I do when I'm on my own? So it did help more having clinics with Conrad, because he gave me specific exercises to work on, and then I would go home and I would work on exercises. And if she wasn't able to do a pirouette, I knew what to do to kind of help her understand, getting the pirouette smaller or building up her strength and stuff. So yeah, it definitely does make a difference there.
So going back to Liberty then, so in the UK, it is growing in popularity, but we may sort of perceive it as being associated with Western riding or maybe the circus. So how does Liberty training fit in with your usual training routine? And could you explain the benefits to anybody who's maybe sort of like pure dressage?
Yeah, well, I definitely think that it really enhances your relationship with your horse. I mean, I'm always about relationship anyway. I love my horses. I'm attached to them. I always get mares because I'm attached to mares more than geldings. No problem with geldings, but I just love the mares. They have a little bit more spunk. And I just found, like, when I did straight dressage, she did fine. And she's schooling all the Grand Prix movements. I got 5 1s out of her, which is the hardest part for her, or the tempies, mainly because she gets excited. But being able to do something else outside of the dressage arena and focus on our relationship really gave her a good break. She started loving it. I mean, she literally, in fact, I mean, she was kind of, when we go to ride dressage, she's kind of like, do we have to? And so I don't want to say that's it's not really a deterrent, but it really is a good thing that she actually enjoys doing that. And I already took her on the trails a lot. I'm in a place where we have miles and miles of trails, and I had done some obstacle stuff as well with her. But the Liberty, I mean, I have her now coming to me. She grazes loose out in our area. People are riding horses around, and all I have to do is catch her eye and call her, and she comes running. And that never happened before in dressage. So, I mean, there's nothing like the feeling of seeing a huge horse who can go anywhere she wants to go in the place. She has no halter or lead rope on, even pick up her head and come hauling towards you. It's just great.
And do you think it's helped with the confidence as well? Because a lot of dressage horses like spook at the flower pots and, things like that.
Well, I had already done a lot of stuff. I mean, my beliefs behind training a horse are very different than a lot of people, because I grew up, riding horses. We had to ride our horse home from our house on the road. So, I mean, I had always, if my horse spooked at something, the rule was if she was scared of it, she had to go put her nose on it. And so she had learned early on, since I got her at 4, if she spooked at something, go up and touch it, and you could immediately feel her heart rate drop. And she would immediately breathe and go, oh, that was nothing. And I did have, when she lost her vision, I did have to she took steps back. She would see something and she would turn and run. And I'd have a chance to stop her, which was what her first instinct was when I first got her. And she had learned from that. She saw something and her immediate instinct was to go up to it and touch it. So we had to go back to that back in 2018 when she lost her sight in the left eye. By the way, she does have the same disease in her right eye. But we caught it really early. We did surgery early, and hopefully, so far, it's been stable for the last year and a half, knock on wood. And hopefully she'll keep her sight in her right eye. But I also started doing some obstacle stuff with her. And I think you saw some of the video on Facebook where I took her to an obstacle challenge. There's a bunch of Mustangs there, a bunch of Mustangs and quarter horses. And I'm there with a dressage horse, and she's going through the coffin jump they're supposed to jump over. They filled it with water, and the horse is supposed to step in it with all 4 feet. It's a lot different. She's like, well, wait a minute, what am I supposed to do with this thing? So the Liberty more, I think, showcased her confidence that she already had, and bolstered it even more. But she already was there with doing the obstacle stuff that we had done before. And, she just has a lot of fun doing that. And it's just, for me, I just get bored.
Oh, brilliant. So what would you say to any dressage riders out there who are sort of skeptical about this kind of work and think that they maybe don't have time for it as well?
I don't think you have time not to do it. There's only so much you can do in the arena, and you've got to help your horse's brain. I mean, if you don't have a brain, your horse is going to go crazy. And Daria is a hot horse. I wanted a horse. My first horse, Tess, was very laid back. You could get her fired up to do Grand Prix, and she would do it, but it was never with the brilliance that you see on TV with the horses. Daria has that brilliance. I mean, she can do piaffe like nobody's business, and she can do passage. Once she finally understands, it's like, I got it. Is this what you want? And she just lifting her legs and going. So with a horse like that, who's so focused and so intense on doing the job and doing what I'm asking, being able to do something different, whether it's riding her bareback on the trails with the halter and lead rope, or doing some obstacles, or now doing Liberty, it just helps her have a new perspective when we're doing dressage. I mean, it just enhances the whole relationship overall. So I'd highly recommend it. And I will say, some of my students, I've been training, some of my dressage students that I've had horses in full training with, I've put videos up, and they still kind of don't really tag themselves in the videos and show it to the rest of their dressage friends because they're afraid their dressage friends are going to go, what is that? That's like circus type stuff. But then I would get them out there and say, hey, let's go work with your horse. And I had them, do the beginnings of Liberty, having the horse circle them and work on the draw. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. This is so much fun. So even the most staunch dressage rider ends up going, actually, I really like this. This is amazing. So yeah.
It's my goal to be able to do half pass at Liberty, because I gave up riding about 7 years ago, and I'm like, if I can get it all done on the ground, I might just think, oh, I can hop on now.
Yeah, exactly. And I will say some of the dressage kind of makes the Liberty more difficult because, in Western, they just do side pass. They just, go completely sideways. And in dressage, they have to be going forward. So, and we want them flexed in the direction of travel. So there is a difference there. And I've been working with Daria now. Last time I was getting some help with Dan was in Texas when he was over there with Katie, and he still is there. I wanted help on the long lines with Daria because I wanted to teach her to do tempies on the ground. And I've done piaffe on the ground and stuff, but I had no idea how to do tempies, especially with a horse that wanted to run. So he really helped me with that. She's now doing her flying changes with me on the ground, walking beside her, and has caught on. And she's doing shoulder in, rambert, travers, but it's a bit of a learning curve for me too, getting, a handle on the reins and not tripping over the long lines and, having the whip in the right place and not being too close where you're going to get kicked and that kind of thing. But yeah, doing the half pass at Liberty, I think is absolutely possible. So I would say keep at it.
Yeah, my life goals have changed from wanting to ride at Prix St. George to being able to half pass at Liberty.
Yeah. Hey, that's a high goal.
So what's the most important thing you've learned then through your journey with horses and or Liberty training?
I think that I started off when I was a kid. I mean, I was like, you better not mess up horse, and if you mess up, I'm going to get after you. And I was doing a bunch of none of that stuff. And I've learned a lot more to be soft with the horse, and I've also learned that horses are unique animals. They don't get up in the morning going, I'm going to be naughty. They wake up in the morning and they're a clean slate, and they don't purposefully. I mean, there are some horses that are dangerous horses that you should not be around, that are out to get you. But I had never met one of those horses. I have heard about them. My horse, when I get her, if she makes a mistake, it's usually an honest mistake, or she got a better offer. So it's not like, I hate you, I'm going to buck you off. It's, okay, I was scared, I jumped. This was the better chance here. And that was my first dressage horse. Her first inkling was to run first, ask questions later, and then she would throw in a couple bucks at the end if I was still on her. So that's why I really was like, you better touch these objects when you're afraid of it. So not holding things against the horses, and also not taking it personally when they don't do what you ask. And then also, don't be greedy. It's easy to say, okay, this piaffe is great, I want a little bit more. Or this half pass is great, or, I just want to do it again, just do it again. And the horses don't understand that. And they start they're giving you the right answer. And instead of affirming that and moving on or quitting, they think, okay, I've given the wrong answer, so let me keep offering answers. And they start offering the wrong answers. Or, as I've also seen in a lot of cases, the horses end up going lame.
Yeah.
They get injuries because they're tired, and the riders are still asking for more. And because they're tired, they're more subject to injury. And I've seen quite a few horses that are lame for life because they've had torn suspensories and stuff like that because people just push them too hard. So yeah. I'm learning to see a whole lot more from the horse's point of view than I did when I was first starting out.
I wish I'd understood more about learning theory back when I was riding and competing, because like you say, you're almost not thinking about what you're doing. It's almost like saying to somebody, go over there, go over there, go over there, go over there, and never, like you say, acknowledging when they've done as you've asked. So you never, they don't know when they've done the right thing.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Especially when they take just one step. It's not all the way over there, but it's a step towards that direction. So you praise that. That's good.
Yeah.
And that's where we also get greedy. It's like, babe, you didn't do the entire thing that I wanted. You just did part of what I wanted. So yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one.
So what's the best compliment you've ever received?
I think the thing that makes me feel the best is when people are like, she's a horse whisperer. I don't hear that very much, but when people say that, it really, it makes me feel good, because I feel like it takes a whole lot to get to the point where you can really communicate with a horse. And I don't think I am a horse whisperer. I think that I've had a lot of experience with horses, and I love horses, and I love the way they think, and I love their nature. But to be able to communicate with them on their level, and to be able to understand and think like they think, and go, for example, I'll say, I will freely admit, it's not fun when you fall off. It's not fun when a student falls off, especially. And I had a student come off recently, and we traced it back to the saddle. First, it was like the student's like, did they buck me off on purpose? And I was like, no. And she was like, well, was he bucking me off? No, it wasn't bucking you off. He was in pain, trying to get out of the pain. So being able to look back, trace back, and go, okay, this is what we should have looked at more closely, because this is something that makes a huge difference with the horses, their comfort. And if they're hurting, they will do things that are outside of their character otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that goes back to the chunking it all down into small steps, doesn't it? It helps you to figure out, problem solve a lot easier.
Yeah.
You might previously have just judged it as bad behaviour. So.
Yeah, exactly.
So what frustrates you when training, and how do you deal with that?
Honestly, I get greedy too, and I want progress faster than I get it, and I will confess to even wanting that yesterday. I was riding Daria, and she gave me 5 1s, and I should have stopped, because the most she had done up until that was 4 1s, but I wanted to get it on video. So, her brain was totally fried, and she started just kind of short striding, and, I get frustrated when things don't go as quickly as I want them to go, even though, she's 10 years old and she's doing Grand Prix. So it's not like she's not moving quickly. And then I say this kind of equal ground. I also get really frustrated when I see people getting onto their horses, and I hear a lot of people talking to their horse and just letting them, get on their nerves, because they think that the horses have been like, oh, you don't want to go through water? Well, we'll show you how to go through water. Or you don't want to do this? Well, I'll show you. And it's not a partnership. And it's very hard for me to see that, and to see the horses. And I just feel bad for them to go, well, let's take a step back and just look at your horse and see. And again, I'm seeing this in myself, so I'm able to see it in other people too. I'm not saying I'm any better, because I can see myself doing that. And so I'm able to see it also when other people do it too, and kind of can self-reflect and go, okay, how am I doing that? How do I need to do it better as well? But I think the impatience with horses, and just assuming that they're out to get it to get at you or don't really want to get it right, I think is the hardest part.
Mm. Cool. And do you have any practical tips or advice for people just starting out in liberty? So obviously everything's off in the UK at the minute. Horses aren't allowed to leave home. They're not allowed to travel unless it's an emergency. So it's just us and the internet at the minute. So if they were to go out to the barn today and fancied having a go, where should they start? Is there a specific exercise that you'd recommend? Or?
Well, I always start with a lay down. You know, I think that I would definitely say the shutdown has been a good chance for people to start different things, and I think that my first start in liberty was watching videos that James had done and doing the groundwork stuff that he talks about. There are a lot of basics that it's funny because even if you ask him, if I do step on the halter and lead rope, will it help my liberty? And he's kind of like, not really. And I'm like, actually, yeah, your videos on groundwork, levels 1 and levels 2, really do help with the foundations of liberty, because it's teaching you how to stand in relation to your horse, how to communicate with your horse, how to use a whip as an extension of your arm, not as a whip to beat the horse, but as, okay, I can't reach your rear end, but I can touch back there with my hand as an extension of the whip, or with the whip as in my extension. So I like working with them on the ground, teaching them, watch the videos from the Double Dan Insiders Club videos. It's $6 a month to do. And they put that money, a lot of that money, towards helping people who are in trouble, who don't have horses themselves, don't necessarily even know anything about Double Dan horsemanship or about liberty or anything about horses at all. They do it because it's like, there's somebody that's in need and we want to help them. And they call that Blessed Monday. So I feel like the money that we pay to do the Double Dan Insiders is going towards a really good cause. And there's so many good videos to watch.
I wondered where that money came from. I didn't realize it was from the subscription for the Insiders.
Yeah, it's a subscription. It's they just automatically debit your account, and I normally hate the automatic debit stuff. My husband's been against that for a long time, but for $6, I'll do that. But there's so many videos watching him and watching. No, you do have to buy the ground control videos, and I do have the levels 1 and level 2.
Cost me a fortune to import them from the US, and I think they've now made them digital. I think.
And I think they're going to start doing that. I think that's a project that they're looking at doing, getting all of them digitized, or it might be worth pitching with some friends and order.
Yeah, should have done that.
But yeah, several sets of them. That's when I go see Dan, I buy a bunch of whips, I buy a bunch of DVDs and stuff, and then come back and I just will sell them to people at cost, because it costs $36 just to ship a set of $90 whips.
Yeah.
So anyway,
cool.
I learned by watching and other people and stuff. So I say, just get out there and just start playing with it and doing it.
Brilliant. Thank you. So how do you believe in yourself and your horse then?
Say that one more time.
How do you believe in yourself and your horse? Because life comes along and sort of knocks our self-belief, doesn't it? So how do you keep believing?
I don't know if it's as much a belief in myself and my horse as much as it is, I feel like I'm a believer in God, and I believe that He's given me a specific talent and calling to help people with their relationships with their horses. And it may be in dressage, it may be in obstacles, it may be in liberty, it may be just helping their horse be a better trail horse. And because I feel like this is the way I can minister to people and help them wherever they're at, it's more of a higher calling than it is just going out there and competing and training and stuff. I will tell you that the most impactful time I've had with a student, this is a student, she does not private information. She has what's called Susak's disease, which is an autoimmune disease that occurs a lot in women and older women. And it usually, from what I saw, it progresses. It's where your immune system attacks your vision, your hearing, and your cognitive. And it usually attacks one of the three. And in this woman's particular case, it attacked all three. But first, it got her hearing. And she's a concert pianist. She was wonderful playing on the piano. And she had always wanted to have a horse. And so she and her husband decided to get a horse, as, you know, this is going to hopefully help her get through this disease and help her take the place of piano. And she ended up getting a Friesian. I didn't know her at this point. And I mean, the Friesian, if anybody knows the Friesians, I mean, they're not the most sensitive horses in the world. They're big horses. And I was like, I would never recommend a Friesian for this frail woman who is so strong in her character. But yeah, I started helping her. And, you know, a lot of times she would have treatments and she couldn't even hardly stand. And her husband's like, you can't ride today because you can't stand. You're just too frail right now. And I remember seeing her one day and I was riding. This is after I'd gotten on my gold medal and done Grand Prix, and I had my riding boots on and I was teaching other people and training horses. And I came up and I was like, Sharon, are you ready to ride? And she was like, I can't ride today. And I could see she was on the verge of tears. And I was like, well, I was thinking we would just do like a leading lesson where I just led you around. You just got to ride him and enjoy being on him. And she was like, I could see the light come on in her eyes. And she was just like, oh, wow. And she was going, yeah, let me check with Jim and see. And so she texted him and he said, I think that's okay. And so, I mean, our lesson consisted of me walking out there in my expensive riding boots and spurs and leading her horse up and down a mound of dirt and just around, and to see her face and she kept going, you know, this is just a waste of your time. I mean, you need to be out, you know, training horses and people and stuff. And I mean, I literally broke down in tears and I was like, this is why I do what I do, is to see the smile on your face when you were in tears when I first saw you, and to see you smiling now, and it's made your day to just be able to get on your horse and to walk around. So yes, I like to compete, and I do have goals that I want to move up, and I've always wanted to compete internationally, and I don't know if I ever will. But it's the day-to-day impact with people that keeps me going, that just, it makes it all worth it.
Oh, that's such a lovely story. And I think it highlights that there's much more to relationships with horses. It's not just about getting on and riding and competing. Like, you know, I want that's sort of my message as well, is that you can still have a horse life when you've stopped riding and competing. Like, I love what I'm doing now. I mean, I would love to be able to get back in the saddle again one day if it ever happens, but you know, it's given me a purpose again, and just that interaction and being with them and still training but not riding.
Yeah.
I think we put so much pressure on ourselves to conform to what we think we should be doing instead of just enjoying them.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, I don't know how it is over there, but I mean, the horse community can be really cruel. Mm-hmm. And I mean, as I mentioned first off in my story, I mean, we couldn't have kids. Mm-hmm. And I was depressed. I couldn't get out of my closet. Oh. I'd come home from my day job at the church, and I would be in our closet on the floor until my husband got home. And I was suicidal. I had no reason to want to keep living, and it was a vicious cycle. That it was either, okay, you're too depressed to get pregnant, or you're too your infertility is causing you to be depressed. So it's okay, I can't have kids, so I'm depressed, and I'm depressed, so I can't get pregnant. And there was no way out of it. And I found that being able to have my horse and to nurture her and just go out and just brush her and give her treats and have her nicker when I come up, it got me out of the closet, and it got me having a purpose again and having a reason to keep going in life, even when life doesn't turn out the way you think it's gonna turn out. I don't think any of us look at ourselves now, and there are a few people that say I'm living my dream, but most of us, we take a lot of different turns along the way.
Yeah.
And my turns definitely have not been as expected. So yeah, it is, horses are a huge source of therapy for people. And I think that we all could do a better job of loving one another better and realizing that, we all have our own baggage that we're carrying, and we need to understand that everybody's got their own sack of rocks. So have a little bit of mercy towards the person that you're interacting with. They may not be the nicest person in the world, but you don't know what they're carrying around. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we need to work towards a kinder, more accepting world, and realize that those of us with horses have a whole lot more in common than we have in differences.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. We've got one quick question coming from the floor before the final question, if you've got time to answer it.
Sure.
So it's my husband. He's not in the bath, because it's the middle of the day for once. He's out in the barn. He says, do you have a perfect ratio for ground training versus riding? Does it depend on the horse? This is a long one. Do you have a standout story? Hang on, wait a minute. Turn to it. And do you have any standout stories of horses that were ridden being turned around through groundwork alone? I'm not quite sure what he means about that. So I presume it means improving the riding through the groundwork.
Yes, absolutely. The respect that you get in the ground does translate to the saddle. And if you don't have respect on the ground, you're not going to have the respect in the saddle. And that's not respect as far as fear, but that's the respect as far as, this is my space, this is your space, and we're going to honor one another with that. Again, my horse is blind. She runs into me sometimes, and I need to know when she's not paying attention and just running into me, and when she's purposefully just, or when she really can't see and she's trying to stay with me and she just does not understand where I'm at. So yes, I think the liberty does translate to the riding, and groundwork. The respect you have on the ground does translate over when you're riding, to having a relationship where the horse actually trusts you, because they know they can trust you on the ground. And when you're on their back, it's a different story. They kind of start to feel like they're in charge, because they're the ones that are going first. And to know that you're not going to take them into danger, you're not going to ask them to do something where they're going to get hurt. But then to have that respect and that relationship with you on the ground definitely translates. As far as the perfect ratio, there's no perfect ratio for anything there, and there's no you just can't predict with horses and riders. All of us are so different, and if you enjoy being on the ground and working your horse on the ground, and that's all you can do, that's all you can do. If you enjoy riding and your horse enjoys it, then great, do that. With my horse, I like to spend at least as much time on the ground as I do in the saddle. Whether it's grooming her, whether it's hand grazing, whether it's working her at liberty, whether it's teaching her tricks, teaching her to sit down on the bean bag or to sit up from the lay down now. She is laying down now. It took a long time for that. So yeah, I kind of just mix mine up, and I can do days where I'll ride her and then I'll do liberty. And when I talked about liberty, I'm like, let's go play. It literally is, I see it as play, she sees it as play. So when we get a score that's not so high as somebody's nice little quarter horse that's just trotting a perfect little round circle, and my horse is kind of throwing her head up around and showing her energy and her spunk and maybe putting her ears back and doing a little bit of a buck with her canter, you know, she has lower score. The competitive side of me goes, that's not right. I don't like that. But, you know, she's having fun. She's playing. She's being herself. And that's all you can ask.
That's the dog snoring in the background. Sorry, in case you
Put the dog to sleep.
So my final question then, what are your goals for 2021, such as it is with COVID still lurking around?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard because I do not do well with the masks outside, especially. And we've opened up dressage shows and stuff to, you know, competitions again, but you have to wear the mask, period, unless you're on a horse. And I don't know about where you are, but in Alabama in the summertime, it gets up to upper 90s and the humidity is awful. And I mean, I suffocate with the mask on. So there's been no competition for me this past year. And I don't know if I'll be able to do any this coming year in dressage. I've been excited about being able to do the Liberty virtual shows. And I do like the fact that they're virtual because people like you and other people and totally different continents can come together and compete and at least have something that brings us all together when a lot of us are feeling pretty isolated where we're at. So with all that being said, I would love to bring Daria out at Grand Prix this coming year. I'm definitely going to continue doing Liberty shows. I've gotten my Liberty judging cards now, so I can do some judging. I already judge schooling shows in dressage. And I'm looking forward to doing the Liberty Championships, the virtual ones and the real ones that they're going to have, or not real live, they're both real. The virtual ones and the in-person ones in Kentucky coming up in October.
Brilliant. Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us today. And it's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
I've taken up far too much of your day already because it's first thing in the morning with you, isn't it?
It is, but I'm running my mouth a lot too, so.
Good. Right, well, thank you again and hopefully speak to you again soon.
Yes, thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.